Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. Now, I am happy to welcome Jennifer to the Glow Up Girl podcast. Welcome, Jennifer.
Hello. Thanks very much. It's great to be here.
Awesome. Well, let's go ahead and dive in. We have a lot to cover, but let's get started by you telling the audience out there a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Sure. I am a certified life coach. I am also a consultant for a national college, Colorado Technical University, an admissions consultant. So I guide people through finding, what they're looking to do with their lives going forward and what program, if they decide to go back to school, might be best suited to them. I'm also an author and a public speaker and a mom of two great kids, divorced about 4 or 5 years ago, from Michigan originally. I have lived in California. I'm presently in Chicago for the past 20 years, which I love Chicago.
Yeah.
And love chocolate and anything having to do with a palm tree and any kind of drink with an umbrella in it. So if that gives you kind of a recap, I don't know.
I love it.
That's who I am.
You're a woman of many talents, I would say.
Well, I try a lot of things. Let's put it that way. I think I try.
And I do love Chicago. Chicago is, I've only been in the summer months. So, people always
That's a good time to be here.
Yeah. People always say, oh, you love Chicago so much, but just wait until the winters. And I'm like, well, I'm like, you know what? But that's unfair. I mean, I still think Chicago would be an awesome place to live, even you just adjust. Put on
you do adjust, and I think as much as I'm a summer girl, I love warm weather, but there is a lot to be said for, ice skating, down on State Street or, even in the fall with all the leaves and the bears and, with each season brings a different vibe. And so you can't discount that. I just happen to prefer the summers myself on native pure.
Well, I sort of got that when you said I like eat a drink with the umbrella in it. I was like, oh, she's a summer kind of girl.
I'm a summer kind of girl. You're going to hear that come up probably a couple times throughout our talk today.
Oh, I love that. All right. Well, let's start talking about your book, The Power of Reinvention. So what inspired you to write the book, 5 Steps to Freedom from Fear? Let's dive into that first.
Sure. Yeah. It actually started with my own fear, and it wasn't meant to be anything other than notes that I was writing to myself as I was going through a period of kind of healing. I had gone through a divorce. A lot was happening at once. You live your life for so many years in a certain way and you get used to that. And then one day you wake up and life is completely different, right? So during the course of 2 or 3 months, my husband and I had separated. He actually moved to Texas. My mom passed away, who was my rock. My daughter was going off to college, so had never been separated, from her for long. And she was only about 4 hours away. So it wasn't like it was a long way, but it was enough that she was no longer going to be in the house. And then my son was just entering high school. So there was a lot of adjustments. There was a lot of kind of loss, the loss of my marriage, my daughter, not a loss, but going off to school was somewhat of a gap for me, a gape. And my son trying to adjust to all of this and all of us trying to adjust to all these changes. And so I found myself out of the workforce for 20 years, now having to get out there and figure stuff out. And it was paralyzing. I'm not going to lie. And I was a pretty confident, competent businesswoman before I got married and decided to have kids. So it wasn't like I lacked confidence in my ability to do things, but it had just been so long since I've been out there.
Right.
And things are way different now than they were when I left the workforce in terms of the type of education that you need, in terms of, your qualifications. So, I found myself in kind of going down a rabbit hole. And so I said, well, you got 2 choices, Jen. You can curl up in the corner with a bottle of tequila or you can pull yourself together and just figure this stuff out. And, when you've got 2 kids that are kind of looking to you for how you're going to react to all this. And they were older, mind you, they were like 16 and 18 or whatever, but still,
they're still your children.
And they are
yeah,
always going to be your children.
yeah, yeah.
And so that really changes your whole perspective in terms of what your
Mhm.
responsibility is, not just to them, but to yourself first. They say when you're on the airplane and you're putting the oxygen on, you have to put it on yourself first and then put it on your child.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
if you're not well and capable enough to help
Mhm.
them, then you're both going to be out of luck.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was kind of the approach I took was, okay, now what do I do? So what inspired me was I started coming up with different methods to cope, first of all, and to get my
Mhm.
mindset wrapped around the fact that this is a new world and this is a new way that we have to start thinking and doing things. And I started reading books and trial and error, making notes. And I ended up writing what some would probably refer to as a blog post. It's not really long. By the time I
Mhm.
condensed everything and I found the things that worked for me, it
Mhm.
ended up to be simpler than I thought in the end. It wasn't easy.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy, but it was a simple 5 steps that I came
Mhm.
up with. And so I wrote them down and then I began to think, if this worked for me, I'm
Mhm.
willing to bet it might work for other people too. I can't be the only person, the only woman going
Right.
through this.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
certain I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so I went from that. I got the job at the university. I started working with students. I started using these on students, these 5 steps,
Mhm.
and it was working for them too. So it ended up where I wrote this, I guess ebook. I call it a guide because it's
Mhm.
really,
Mhm.
it's not a 300-page book. I
Mhm.
don't think that's what people want in this situation. What they
Right.
want is just give me something I can start using today. Give me some tools
Exactly.
to switch my mindset
Mhm.
and give me just something to get me started. And so
Yeah.
it's super short by design.
Mhm.
And the Power of Reinvention actually is an article that I had written for my
Mhm.
blog. Again,
Mhm.
very short, but just kind of get you thinking a little bit about what power lies within yourself to reinvent who you are and the
Mhm.
baby steps that you take to get there. It doesn't have to be a huge monumentous thing. So as part of the guide, I include that article
Mhm.
on the power of reinvention, and the two of
Mhm.
them together, I think go well together. But that's kind of
Yeah.
what inspired.
Yeah.
Didn't set out and wake up one day and say, I'm going to write a little ebook today. It's like, no,
You
I did it
were
for myself.
Yeah, and I think that is so that's more like healing, so healing for you, but it also helps people, like you set out to give something that was tangible, right?
Yeah.
This is something that helped me to actually like overcome this feeling of fear to take the first step. But there's something you said as you were speaking that just truly stuck out to me that I think a lot of times that we as women we don't do, and it's the part about thinking about that we do have to take care of ourselves first.
Yes.
If we don't prioritize our own, whether that be mental health, physical health, like if we don't prioritize ourselves and we just always aim to help everybody else, then we get in this feeling of being overwhelmed and this
Mm-hmm.
feeling of being stressed and tired all the time. And we
Yeah.
can't possibly put our best selves out there in order to, help those that need us. So I think that was really important for you. And I like what you said too. You said I could do two things, right? I can get ball up in the corner with a bottle of tequila, or I can move forward. But see, you can do both too, right? You get ball up first and drown that,
Oh, I had a
sort of.
couple of lemon drop martinis along the way. I'm not going to swear off alcohol.
You can but also the thing that stuck out to me too is something that I always talk about is like honoring your feelings, right?
Yeah.
So like you said, you started with it just being like journaling for yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you were honoring how you felt and putting down your thoughts and your feelings, but you didn't let it take up a permanent residence inside your head.
No, you can't. And you're right.
Yeah.
It is all about balance.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm not one of these people that stands up here like some PhD expert and says, oh, don't do this, don't do that. The
Mm-hmm.
fact is, we're all different. We all have different timelines
Mm-hmm.
in terms
Mm-hmm.
of how long we grieve, how long we let ourselves go in that place
Right.
before we call ourselves out. And, a piece of advice I give to my clients all the time is don't let anyone else set your timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Follow your instincts, because everybody and their brother has an opinion about how
Yes.
long it should take you to get over a divorce or a bad relationship or losing a job. They will
Mm-hmm.
all have their own opinion of how long it should take before you're
Mm-hmm.
over it.
Right.
And not to wallow in something for too long, because we kind of know when we've gone over that limit. We start telling ourselves it's time. We know we're very smart individuals. And so when that happens, okay, time to move. But in the meantime, that self-care, that allowing yourself to go through what you need to process. You can't move on without it. You can't just bury it and say it didn't happen and just move on with that smile on your face. It's
exactly. Yeah.
That's a good point.
It's not realistic. So what do you find is one of the biggest obstacles that people face when they're starting over, whether, like you said, whether it be grieving loss or a job or a divorce or a relationship, what do you think people what obstacles appear when they're trying to start over?
Great question. And I think there's three that come to my mind right away. The first thing is limiting beliefs. I feel like we limit ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. It's usually not the world stopping us or outside forces. It's usually our own opinion.
Right.
Oh, and by the way, that leads to making excuses. Limiting beliefs leads to making excuses. So, I'm too old to go back to school, or I am too old to get a new job, or I am too old to start dating, whatever. I'm too young to do this, whatever it is. Those are statements we make to ourselves. No one else has made them. We're making them.
Yep.
And it's what we
just
believe.
Buying into it. Yep.
Buying into it.
And I'm just writing the notes. So I'm over here taking the notes.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I think, that's great. I love it. That's my whole life, by the way. I take notes on everything. So I think limiting beliefs is a big one. I think that fear is another one. Fear literally paralyzes us at times. And I can say firsthand, I know this. And it's also a very comfortable place to stay. It's another reason to not move forward. And then thirdly, I would say, and some may disagree with this, but comfortability.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I think it's really easy. I think it's easier sometimes to suffer in your own misery than to step out of your comfort zone and make a change for the better. And we're all guilty of it. I mean, I know I am. It's just easier to say, well, you know what? This isn't so bad.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
I'll take some more grief from myself or from this person or this situation or this job. And, if you look at those three things, I would say that probably comprises like 90% of what really holds people from moving forward.
Yeah, that is so true. And you hear it all the time. People, in jobs, and they're not really happy in the job, but they're like, well, but they allow for me. I have a lot of flexibility, and the pay is good. Like those are the things you hear. And I'm like, but are you happy? Like, do you enjoy showing up there? I mean, even, with the being virtual, these days, but do you enjoy getting up and saying, I'm coming downstairs to sit and do this job? So it's unreal, because like for people that sort of have that different mindset where you're like, this is not it. It's time to go. It's so hard when you hear people who can sit in that comfort zone.
It's hard to watch.
Yeah.
Because I've been there, and my clients do it all the time. And I just let them talk. I let them talk. And they keep talking themselves why they're staying here. And I was with Dr. Phillips said, well, how's that working out for you? At the end of the day, how's that working out for you?
Exactly.
And I just let them go. And, I say, okay, so everything you're saying, fine. Let's take a look at 2 years from now, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. What happens if you don't make a change? Answer that question. And I make them think about it. And usually they don't like the answer.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
When they ask themselves that. And I tell, I shouldn't tell anybody anything. I ask, my clients to imagine, all the reasons they shouldn't do this or don't want to do it or can't do it right now. And then, again, what happens if you don't? Make a list of the things that are going to be or not be in your life as a result of not doing it. And that's a tough mirror to look into, but it's a necessary mirror, because it quite usually results in them saying, I just got to bite the bullet and do this. Where do we start?
I like that. I wrote that down because, again, I think it's so great that you're not just talking at someone, you're actually you're asking a question. and asking them to think about, give an answer. And when someone comes to you that directly and asks you, I mean, you really can't do anything other than, I mean, you would just be foolish if you just look away and not do it. But if you begin to write down those things, and I mean, you would have to move, you'd have to make some choice.
Eventually, and again, I find with people, that they have to be ready. And, as I said, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make the horse drink the water.
You cannot.
And then, there's a common saying in the coaching business that you're probably aware of: don't ever work harder than your client. I mean, if you're trying harder for them than they're trying for themselves.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. It's enabling. Enabling.
That is so, yes, that is so hard. That's so hard because it's like, even, just in everyday life, like, one thing over the last, these last like 18 months that I came to was like, even with friends, like when I have people that I know and you see potential and you see that like the possibilities that could happen for them. And you're like always telling them and saying, oh yeah. And I think da da da. And then pretty soon it's like you said, you can lead the horse to the water, but like if people aren't ready to take that step, then it leads to frustration. For what I was finding, I was like, well, gosh, I'm like always just frustrated because I see the possibility and this person won't make the move. And finally, I just decided, because it was draining for me. Like when I thought about it, I was like, you know what, this is actually draining because I'm always getting on, we're always talking, I'm giving ideas but none of the ideas that we talk about, you're not doing anything. And so
we're working harder than them. Yeah. You're working harder than them. That's exactly what I was talking about.
Yeah. And so eventually, like I just got to this place. I was like, you know what? No, I mean, if you don't see your own potential and the opportunities that exist, then I can't like keep doing this. So then you just, you have to like stop enabling, because that's exactly what it was.
Yeah, you have to make some tough decisions when you're going through a reinvention or when you're going through any type of growth. It does require some tough decisions. And oftentimes those decisions are about people that are the closest to you, because they will be the ones that will surprise you.
Isn't that the truth? And I said this to one of my friends yesterday. I told her, I was like, I would say like, in 2020, 2021, I said, it's been the most like redefining like moments for me. Because like, I've just been able to see things a lot clearer because there's not like the always going and the always being so busy going out and doing all the time. And it's more like focused time to like think about, the people in your life. And, because like I said in last year, 2020, I said, wow, well, we had these real opportunities where we were in the house, like, and people could catch up that wanted to catch up. There was more time. And don't get me wrong. I know we were all still busy, even though we were in our houses. Right. Yeah. But there was still opportunity to connect to people digitally, connect to people, even just on a cell phone and talk, there were still these opportunities. And I sort of took that as like the people that really stayed like tied out, during that time, like those were like the people that were like truly my people.
Yeah.
Because, we couldn't hang out. We couldn't be in each other's face. There was like no events happening that put us together. This was just simply us connecting because we wanted to connect, because we missed each other. We wanted to stay in touch. And then, but it also, gave that lens to like relationships that I thought were like close relationships that were like not really what I thought they were to be. So it was like, okay, I can tiptoe away from those.
Yeah. I think it was a very telling time. There was a lot of good that came from it, aside from the obvious bad, but there was some things that really made us re-examine our lives, re-examine where we're at, where we want to be, who do we want to have in our life. Going forward, it was a time for pause. And, sometimes, when you don't take one, the world delivers one.
Is that, for sure. Yep. So, okay. So one of the obstacles you mentioned is limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs is also a form of self-sabotage.
Huge.
So what should people do? Anyone who is, in this place of, I want to take the next step.
Yeah.
But inside, every time they say like, yep, I'm going to do that. And then the inner mean girl, inner mean guy.
Yeah, the inner dialogue.
Yeah, is like, you're not ready. You're going to do the same thing you always do. What should they do during this time?
Knock it off. Knock it off. Shut it out. I think a lot of what we do is we overthink, we overanalyze, and it'll stop you every time. I mean, we know it. We know that is our worst enemy. It's our inner dialogue. It's those limiting beliefs. And so I have found that what works with a lot of my clients, and it works with myself, is to focus on your why. Why is one of the most important words in our language. It's not what, it's not how, it's not when, it's why. Because out of all of those words, the why is the motivator. So, hands on, write down a list of what you want, and then write down why you want it. But you have to go 7 layers deep. You have to say, I want a better job. Okay, why? Well, so I can make more money. Why? Why do you want to make more money? So I can support my kids. Well, why is it so important to support your kids? Go 7 layers deep. This is tough. It's going to take you a long time. But when you get to the final realization of what your motivation is and why you want this thing so bad, because you got to want it bad, that is what's going to keep you on course. And when those limiting beliefs start coming in, and that they're usually irrational beliefs, that they're excuses. And when you identify them as such, and you can revert back to the why, whenever those start to creep into your mind, you will find that is going to be a huge factor in disallowing those to prevent you from moving forward.
Love that. That's awesome. And I like one thing. Everything, you know what? And you give such great advice, and everything has a application, which is what I appreciate. You're not just out here telling us.
There's no fluff here, girl.
Yeah. You're telling us what we can do.
That.
Yeah.
No, those are no. Then I'd be a fraud, and I'm not protesting to know everything. People could be listening right now and saying, "Oh, she's full of what." But it is what it is. I mean, I just, based on what's worked for my clients, what's worked for myself. First of all, it all started with me. And I think that again, I don't know everything, but having been through several different types of experiences over the years, I can only speak to what worked for me and what drew from me things that helped along the way. And, I don't have to tell you this, we are all so much more alike than different. I speak to people from all walks of life, all different cultures, and we're all the same when it comes to what we want. We want self-acceptance. We want love. We want to feel accomplished. We want to feel like we have some purpose and some meaning in our life. And we want to take care of those we love. We want those people that we love to feel loved and to be taken care of, whether that's emotionally, financially, physically, in whatever way. But really at the heart of what I get down to with my clients is they really all want about the same thing, So it is a very universal subject when you're talking about self-improvement and fear and reinvention, because we all go through periods in our life where we're going to be faced with that change that we're going to have to cope with and adapt with and figure out how we're going to get through in the best way possible. And so I feel like I've run off track here. But
no, you have not. These are all, I love this. And it made me think about something. So like I have this little calendar on my desk that has like affirmations on it every day. And the one I read today said, sometimes you have to stand up for yourself to yourself.
Love it.
I was like,
I got goosebumps.
What? And it was so true. It was so true and so real. And I feel like it really like resonates with the conversation we're having today, because, like you said, with limiting beliefs, us sometimes standing in our own way and not being able to like, see the bigger picture or not. We see it. I think a lot, we see it. We always see it because most people I know personally, I'm a dreamer. So I always like my dreams are all way up there, and but we see it. But sometimes, like you said, it's the things like being in a comfort zone and not wanting to fail and not, but I mean, you got to take the leap. I mean, what do you have? I always say to myself, like, what do I have to lose?
That's it.
I mean, all someone can do is tell me no. And that's all they can do. They didn't physically come over here and push me down. They didn't slap my face. They just said no, or they don't answer, and I think especially like in, being a podcaster and, going after, like trying to get guests. And sometimes I ask people and they don't say anything. Sometimes I ask people and they say, well, not right now, but I don't ever take that like personally, I don't ever go like, oh my God, like, is my show not good? I mean, it's just not meant to be right now. Like, they're just not my people. So they won't come on.
And that's, you have to be philosophical about that because it's true.
Yeah.
We do. Why is it always so easy to believe the worst of ourselves? We don't take a compliment very well. But when someone says something bad, why is that easier to believe? Yeah. And if that is the case, you've got a little bit of work to do on yourself. If that is the case.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's like a combination of, which sort of moves me into the next question. It's like a combination of the doubt and fear. Because I think the doubt, I mean, the fear in itself is awful, but the doubt on top of that.
Yeah, I think one leads to the other, for sure.
Yeah.
And, you have to think about, if you had a child or a best friend or, a spouse or significant other that was going through a doubtful moment. And, what do? We listen to them, we honor that, but then we tell them and remind them of those things that are wonderful about them. Don't be silly. You may not be great at this, but you're so good at this. And where you lack in one area, you're always going to pick up on something else. Let's focus on that which you are good at. Focus on past accomplishments. Focus on the things that you've got going for you. But we don't do that to ourselves. We don't talk to ourselves out of a doubtful situation. We'll do it for everybody we know. We'll do it for somebody we hardly know. So I guess, the one thing to remember is have conversations with yourself on a daily basis that are rich and full and positive and focused, because, our minds get lazy. And we have to remember that we can control our own self-dialogue 100%. We control what goes into our own heads and our own belief system. But it does take discipline. If you've had years of dialogue that goes on one pattern, to change that dialogue, and this is, part of the guide that I wrote too. As I said, it's simple. It's a simple guide, but it's not easy to do. Right? It requires daily discipline. It requires a thoughtful intention to begin thinking this way. And it sounds silly because you think, oh, your thoughts come very naturally. They do, but they could be very damaging thoughts if they're here as a result of a pattern. So to change that pattern that's going to convert into a better existence for yourself, you have to change the dialogue, and you have to do it consciously and with discipline. And the more you do it, the more often and longer you do it, the more natural it becomes. But that dialogue has to change to a better dialogue. And that's going to help eliminate that doubt and those fears, and things like that. So be nice to yourself.
Yeah. Extend grace, the same grace that you give to others to yourself. That is number one. So I'm glad you started down that road, because that is the question here that I have for you lastly, as it relates to your own personal journey of reinventing. So it's a mindset. Like you said, what you're speaking to is a mindset change. And we know it doesn't happen overnight. No. But how long can it take? So just because I know people, you don't want somebody out there thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to get the 5 steps and in 3 3 weeks.
I guarantee you in 24 hours, you're going to be a whole new person. If I could do that, I'd be making a lot more money than I am. A good question though. And, as I said, everybody is different. For some people, it could take weeks. For some people, it could take years. It depends on how you kind of adapt to those strategies, how hard you work on those strategies, Some people have more conviction than others. It depends on where you're at in that journey. It's like a timeline, where is everybody on their journey? It doesn't have to take a long time. This process for me I didn't have the luxury of time. First of all, I had to get my stuff in order. I had to get a job. I had to overcome a lot of stuff in a very fast period of time. And so I didn't have time to monkey around, and I would have loved to have just had like a short, 5 steps, do this, do this, do this, do this, do this. That would have been, well, that's it. That could have been a blog article. But no, if you really read through it and you practice that, that is what I did. And it probably took me, it was, and by the way, I'm still a work in progress. I think we never get there. It's,
Right.
it's not it's the journey, not the destination. But I mean, really to really pull me out of that funk. I would say it took me a good 90 days of every day. They say, what does it take 17 days to change a habit or form a habit? Or,
Yeah,
no, it took me longer. It took me longer. It took me longer because I kept relapsing. And that was okay though. Like, you're going to fall down, you're going to get up, you're going to fall down, then go back and try again. But I mean, there is no timeline on it. Don't let anybody give you a timeline. Just do your best every day. And when you fail and you fall down, you say, tomorrow's another day.
Yeah. Get back up. Try
again. Back on the horse.
Yeah. All right. Well, wow. These are all great information. I've got a page full of notes here, just so you know.
Awesome.
Can you please tell the audience how they could possibly work with you, what type of programs you offer, and how to find you online?
Certainly. It's pretty simple. It's jennifermaurer.net. And that is my website. I created it myself. That was another thing I had to do, right? I didn't have a ton of money when I was beginning. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I said, you know what? I wrote the guide. I'm like, now I want a website where maybe I can go and put some stuff on there to inspire people. I have a little newsletter, just some inspirational quotes and pictures. It's super colorful. And I don't know if that's what it's supposed to look like. I never went to a web developer and said, oh, I'm a life coach. What is my website supposed to look like? Right. I threw a bunch of colors in there, some videos, and it was really fun. So if you go to the website, you will see there's a spot on there where you can click on a link to get the guide. When you purchase the guide, it also comes with I just started a new Facebook group where it's private for those people that purchase the guide. And I'm going to offer some advice and coaching within that group. I'm really excited about that.
Awesome.
And then there's also, like I said, there's areas that you can go to see some inspirational quotes, some of my favorite pictures. There's a newsletter in there. My blog is in there, which is completely unrelated to life coaching stuff necessarily. It's just, I write whatever I feel like writing.
Awesome.
And whatever I feel like writing about. That's like my little coloring section where I just go in and do whatever I want. And I don't know if I'm supposed to do that either, but I don't care. I didn't get the memo.
Hey, you do what you like.
And that's exactly what I do. And that's what's so liberating about it is I purposely did not pay too much attention to what everybody else is doing. There's a million coaches out there. There's a million people doing it a million different ways. And ultimately, if you don't do you, boo, it ain't going to work. So I don't do the memo. I don't read the memos.
Yes, I love it. I
write my own memos.
That's right. You're a trendsetter.
I'm a boss girl.
Yeah, you out there starting the trends, girl. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. What we're going to do, everybody, you look in the show notes and you will find, I'll drop all Jennifer's relevant links so that you can connect to her. All right, now we're going to move into 5 things with Jennifer. So these are just 5 random questions, sometimes 6, depending on what's in my head.
Hey, I'm ready. You got me all warmed up now. I'm ready.
Helps us to get to know you on a little bit deeper level. So my first question is something I love to ask everyone. I'm so intrigued by the people that I talk to, and I always like to know, how do you start the day?
Great question. And that has changed over the years. You know, when I was a teenager, I started it off with a Snickers bar and a Pepsi. Not so much anymore.
Oh, gosh. Yes.
So, yeah, when I'm a little more thoughtful and intentional when I wake up now. You learn, I think, as you go through life, that it is all about intention and setting the right intention for the day. And we have a lot more power over how our day goes than we think. So I do set time aside in the morning. I do some stretches when I first wake up. I drink some water. That just wakes up my physical body. And then I go down and get my cup of coffee because I still have to have the coffee. And then I usually take a couple of minutes and I read one chapter in a book that I'm reading.
Okay.
Whatever that book may be. Right now it's Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty.
Okay.
And I like to read things that are diverse. I like to read people's different philosophies and opinions about things. But that kind of now my body's moving and now my brain is starting to move as well. So the book kind of satisfies that. And then either that, I either do the book or I just literally put on anything from Sia. Sia is my, favorite recording artist. I think she is so empowering of women in particular, and the messages, the powerful messages, the uplifting messages she sends. The songs like Never Give Up and Unstoppable. Forget it. You guys want to pick yourself up for the day? You're in the middle of the day, not having such a great, you have those doubtful moments. Go listen to Unstoppable by Sia. I guarantee you'll be on a different link. So those are some of the things I do in the morning. And she should be giving me royalties, by the way, because I talk her up on all of these podcasts. So Sia, if you're out there, send me a check.
She's like, call me. I like that because that was like going to be my random throw in about your playlist. And I love that you already
definitely Sia. I love her. There's a lot of artists I love.
Yeah.
There's a lot of artists I love, but she's just the one that really, makes you go pop.
Yeah. What's the one goal you set for yourself? It could be business, personal, whatever you feel comfortable sharing.
For this year? I remember thinking about this on New Year's Eve, and it was a very thoughtful New Year's Eve for me because of the year we had and with what I do. And I really did think long and hard about what I want my goals to be this year. And the one that popped into my head first is to change one life for the better every day. It doesn't sound like a really ambitious goal, but for me, being a public speaker where I could get up and speak to a lot of people at once, that went away with the pandemic. Public speaking engagements went south. So I found a new way to reach out to people, and that was through writing and through these wonderful podcasts. And but I just thought, on some level, whether it's through my writing or through a podcast or through, something as simple as a phone call, change one life a day for the better. Make somebody think about something that made them switch directions or gave them some motivation to make an improvement in their life. That would be probably the biggest goal I had.
I like it. What is your favorite form of self-care? Or one of them, let's see.
Yeah. What comes to mind, again, I'm just going off the top of my head here, is just get me near the water. Water is so healing. And one of the things I've always found a way to live near water. When I was in California, I was never more than 20 minutes from some body of water, the ocean. Even here in Chicago, I'm maybe a 5-minute walk from a river and obviously 20 minutes from Lake Michigan, which is like an ocean. But I have to be near water. I feel like it's just very, there's a whole other world underwater that we are separate from, yet we live with. I think that it's just healing. I think that it's calming.
Yes.
I think the waves don't care if our checkbooks don't balance or what position we have at work or how pretty we look this morning, how our hair turned out. It doesn't care about any of that. The waves roll in and they roll back out regardless. And so it gives you that sense of, okay, maybe I am taking all this a little too seriously. Maybe all of this stuff is not as important in the big picture as I think it is. And it just washes out with the waves and in with the new.
I like that because I do too love water and it's so soothing. I find myself just in the mornings, like if I like go in to, brush my teeth, wash my face or whatever, and the water will still just be running. And I'll be like in the closet and I just, my husband's like, why do you always have the water just running all the time? I'm like, I love water. It's so very soothing. I was like, I'm an Aquarian. And I was like, I'm a true water bearer because
you are literally the water bearer. Yes.
Yes. I was like, I just love hearing it. Just something about just sets my mind like at ease and it's just like there and that like I lose all sort of thought about what I'm supposed to be doing because my mind just like goes to a calm place. So
Don't you love just laying there in bed when it's raining outside?
mm-hmm.
That too. When I hear the
So
rain outside my window, like anything having to do, and I'm a Sagittarius, I'm a fire sign, so I don't know where I'm getting all the water stuff,
right.
but I'm drawn to it and I love it.
What is your favorite thing to do on your day off?
On my day off, well, depending on the weather. If the weather's nice, get me outside, to the beach, whatever. If it's not a nice day and it's cold or rainy, my favorite thing to do would be to, I don't get to watch television a lot, but my guilty pleasure is romantic comedies, movies. It drives everybody in my family crazy because my son likes horror movies. My daughter likes the Harry Potter stuff, all the other stuff. And I'm just the rom-com girl. So I guess it would be curling up on the couch, watching Pretty Woman, with a bowl of popcorn and a Hershey bar and a Diet Coke.
Nice.
So that would be my indoor. I'm just being totally honest here. It's like nothing really elaborate,
No, those are the simple things that bring you happiness. And I love all movies. I do love rom-coms, but I do like horror. So I have a wide array of
you have a wide variety.
Oh yeah. I love to watch I'll sort of try to watch anything. And then, if it doesn't work, then I turn it off or whatever. But yeah, I mean, with rom-coms, my husband is always like, so you're gonna watch The Wedding Planner again? And I was like,
it's the 13th time.
Or The Notebook, or lately been like all the boys I've loved movies. Like all three of those movies are so cute, and I'm like, they're so cute. He's like, but I came in here the other day and you were just watching that, and I was like, well, I'm watching it again, so you can leave.
They're comfort movies. It's like, okay, are you just going to eat roast beef once in your life, honey? Or now that we've had it, are you not going to ever eat it again? Like it's comfort food, comfort movie.
It just makes you feel good. It's going to end like beautifully. It's going to be happiness and joy. So
I need to know this is going to end well, because there's so much in life. To me, I try to explain this to my son. There's so much in life that does not end well, or you don't know what the outcome's going to be. And we're kind of battling with that in our minds all day long, trying to maintain that positive thinking without actually knowing the outcome. And that's a struggle we all face. For 2 hours, I just want to sit down and know it's going to end well, and just take my brain out and wring it out and put it back in, and it's just like he tries to explain the horror movies and how I don't understand those. And he said, it makes you confront feelings and just purge them out. And it makes you, kind of go through all this stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to go there. I just want to see Julia Roberts at the end say, I rescued you right back, and kiss Richard Gere, and we're going to call it a day.
I like it. Yeah.
That's all I want.
Totally fine with that. And let's see. And last, how do you end the day?
I end the day by, my first thought when I lay in bed is, oh, this feels so good. I don't have to do anything. I'm done for the day. I can lay myself down to rest. And then I usually say a little prayer of gratitude. I usually just go through my day and say thank you for the things that went well, so that I'm focusing before I go to bed on the things that went well that day. Try not to dwell on the things that didn't, other than to just learn from them and say, how would I do it differently tomorrow? Or how can I get better at that tomorrow? But I don't lay there for an hour. It's literally a very quick gratitude session, I like to call it, I guess. And then what I do is I picture in my head what I want the next day to look like.
Yes. Oh my God, I do that too.
So last night when I went to bed, I said to myself, okay, I'm going to wake up. I'm going to feel refreshed, and I'm going to have this great conversation with Kyra. And then after that, I'm going to do this. And I kind of talk myself through how I want the day to go. And I find when I do that, it usually follows suit. When I find myself tripping up and the day is happening to me instead of me happening to the day, it's usually on those nights, I think back to the night before and I haven't set the intention. So it does work, folks. Give it a try. Even if it's just one thing. Say, I'm not going to have to fight traffic tomorrow. My ride to work is going to go really smooth tomorrow.
No, I love that, because I do, like you said, I like to, sometimes I'll put a word and say like, oh, I'm going to approach tomorrow with joy. Or I'm going I'm going to walk into tomorrow with gratitude. And that's how I'm going to approach this day, no matter what comes my way, because I know now that I've said that, I know it's going to come.
Right. It is. See how much
Yeah.
power we have? See how much,
Mhm.
and just the smallest little change like that. And I address that in the guide too. These things don't have to be monumental for them to work.
Right. Yeah.
It's baby steps, one step at a
Mhm.
time each day. If you try one little thing, you've just made it that much easier and better for yourself. So
Yeah.
I guess if I could stress anything at all, don't be so hard on yourself.
Mhm.
Take baby steps. Don't expect miracles overnight. You
Yeah.
are a work in progress and
Yeah.
you are fabulous.
Yes. Yep. Yes.
Just at
And
the end of the day,
give yourself grace.
give yourself grace.
Give yourself grace. Well, Jennifer, this has been such a great discussion. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your schedule to join me on the podcast today. And as always, you always have a seat here if you want to come back and
Oh.
share. Come back anytime.
Oh, I'd love to talk to you anytime. And I thank you for having me. And I thank your listeners for indulging me for the past
Awesome.
hour. I hope everybody got a little something out of it that might help them a
Mhm.
little bit today. But I do very much appreciate the time with you today as well. You're awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. You as well. Well, stay tuned, everyone. I'll be right back.